Alright guys, this is inaccurate. So Elden Ring's been out for probably like 3 to 4 months, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you have already played it and have definitely finished it. But I know there are a lot of certain things that Miyazaki kind of like left out in the main game, such as, why is Godwyn in 2 places? One underneath Stormveil Castle and one in the Deep Root Depths. Another one is, when will we learn more about Melina? I mean, we barely know anything about her except that she was kind of our companion and then she lit herself on fire. So I think I kind of compiled like a good list about what everyone's kind of thinking about what we should have inside the Elden Ring DLC. So personally, I think that they should do what they did with Dark Souls 3, which is a painted world. Now, how you get to this painted world, I'm not really sure. Miyazaki can fill you in. Maybe you touch one of Godfrey's painting in Stormveil Castle and you get sucked right in. But what I am sure about is that within the painted world, it will be made up of nothing but swamps. So there will be 2 types of swamps, right? The outer swamp will be the Scarlet Rot Swamp. Now this will be inhabited by Melania's second army. So Melania's second army is mainly composed of its regular rot soldiers and the ones that shoot out the freaking destructo discs. And then there's also going to be like the upper knights. So these upper knights will be able to inherit Melania's waterfowl dance. And they're kind of going to be like scattered throughout, they're going to be rising from the Scarlet Rot Swamp, just like the regular stuff. And of course, there is going to be a catacombs where you will have to fight 2 of these upper knights in a very small enclosed room. Now, getting to the inner swamp. So the inner swamp will be a Deathblight swamp. So this Deathblight swamp, like its name, will cause Deathblight. Now, it won't be as fast as the Scarlet Rot Swamp, right? It'll probably be around like a 50% rate compared to the Rot Swamp. So, in this Deathblight Swamp, there will be filled to the brim with kind of very tanky mini-boss enemies. Things like Abductors, the T-Rex Crows, Pumpkinheads, Revenants, Trolls, Giants, Golems. Oh, and you can't forget about the lobsters. Lots and lots of lobsters, crabs, ruin bears, and birds. You name it, and probably throw in some new ones as well. And you will also be getting shot by magical archers from across the map. They will be shooting a mixture of glintstone pebbles and comet azures. Okay, so hear me out. So a lot of FromSoft's design is that you can usually run through a lot of things, right? So in the Deathblight Swamp, there will be randomly placed deeper pools of the swamp where you cannot run through. And if you try to roll through it, it'll give that kind of mechanism where you're kind of like covered in it, so then it'll start building up, like even if you're not in the swamp. Just to make players enjoy the DLC a little bit more. So, in the middle of the Deathblight Swamp is gonna be a town, or like a city or like a village. I'm not really too sure. All right. So, anyways, this town, right before you enter the town, you're gonna walk into a boss fight. So this boss fight is pretty much just a revenant and a grafted scion. And then when you beat them, you'll be granted entry into the city. However, if you visit the entryway at night, you will be invaded by 2 ring bell bearing hunters. Or maybe 3, I haven't really decided. So you can kind of like make your way through town. Maybe there's another puzzle, like kind of like the Celia town, sorcerer town, where you go up there and you light the torches, whatever, right? So in the middle of this town is gonna be a giant tower. Now this giant tower is very similar to the Dreg Heap in that it's not really a tower, it's like a mishmash of a bunch of old buildings, and it's all kind of like spiraling upwards, right? And it's kind of like branching out. It's kind of like one of those like bloodline trees where it like starts from a single point but then like branches out into like different stuff. but with smashed buildings and stuff, right? So basically, this tower is gonna be like a giant freaking labyrinth, right? It's gonna have ladders coming out of it. You're gonna need to make your way all the way to the top. Now, obviously, this labyrinth is kind of similar to Sen's Fortress. There's a lot of traps, there's a lot of wrecking balls, probably swinging axes, and when you're on the outside of the tower, there's gonna be knights shooting great arrows at you. There's probably like an elevator at the top of the tower, or maybe you just make your way to the top of the tower. Anyways, so when you make your way to the top of the tower, you will be greeted by a sight of you're just like on top of the clouds, you know? You're just like above the horizon. The sun's kind of peering out at you, and you know, you just see this fantastic scenes above the clouds. And you're gonna see like this NPC or like an enemy kind of standing off looking at the distance, and then she kind of turns around at you, and then you enter into a boss fight. So this boss fight, right, you're gonna see at the bottom of the screen, it's gonna appear, it's gonna be the Dusk Eye Queen. So you will fight her in the DLC high above the clouds, right? It's gonna be a fairly alright fight, you know, it's nothing crazy amazing. It'll be kind of similar to like Sister Fried and Lady Maria, in that, you know, she's kind of dainty, but she's also like very quick, very agile, very aggressive as well. At least for the first phase. So when she gets to the second phase, right, she will jump back, and then she will snap her fingers, right? So when she snaps her fingers, get this, so 2 Godskin nobles will appear. So these Godskin nobles, they have a tied HP bar, kind of similar to the Godskin duo, right? However, what's different is that each one of them has an HP bar, and both of them you have to kill at the exact same time. Very similar to Throne Watcher and Throne Defender in Dark Souls 2. I would think it's probably like a 10-second window between being able to kill them at the exact same time before the other ones resummons the other Godskin Noble. Now for the Dusk Eye Queen, she will gain a new ability, which I call Banshee Scream. So basically, she screams really loud, and then she inflicts Death Blight all around her. And this includes Death Blight on summons, on co-op, on things like Mimic Tier. Basically, it builds up Death Blight for everybody. And because she's in Phase 2, she will not be able to stagger. Actually, scratch that. That's stupid. She will be able to stagger, but her stagger is based on a random number generator, right? So it'll kind of like add more spice to the fight. And there's some other miscellaneous things I want to include in the DLC, like having a lot of reused boss fights. Now, like, I know it's hard to make new bosses all the time. Of course it is. So just reuse a bunch of bosses. Instead of making them duo bosses, how about making them trio bosses? So in this way, it will be even more like a newer fight, right? Because there's 3 of them. Another thing would be the bleed on the dogs. So these dogs will have it reversed, where they will just cause insta bleed, kind of like how they used to be before the patch fix. Now, I think everybody can agree with what I've said about what should be included in the Elden Ring DLC. But yeah, that's pretty much my wish list for the Elden Ring DLC. What are your guys' wish list for the upcoming DLC? Do you want more answers? Do you want more different bosses? Do you want more swamps? I love swamps. Anyways, that's pretty much it. I'm out. Bye.